Our new partner who I'm really, really excited to announce we are working with. Super, super stoked. Thank you, Angie Huberman, for this connect. It's incredible. AG1 Athletic Greens. I've been using them for a while. I have them every morning on an empty stomach. Basically, take 1 scoop and you put it into a cup or glass or mug of 8 ounces of cold water. And this is all your greens for the day. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Every day I take this. It's so good for my digestion, my energy. It's simple. It's easy. I don't like taking a lot of vitamins. This has been really, really helpful for me. I've had a lot of stomach issues my whole life, and ever since I've been gluten-free and taking the AG1s, it's really helped me in my stomach in the mornings. I love it, and I'm so psyched that they're part of the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm sure a lot of people don't like eating greens, let alone drinking your greens, but I can tell you straight up, it's got a mild tropical taste, and the taste is actually really refreshing, and I really look forward to it each morning. Don't think it's just going to be just straight bland. It tastes really, really good, and it's good for you, so remember that. This one blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's incredible, just 1 scoop, especially for musicians who are vegans or just musicians in general who want to get those daily greens. You can get the packets. It's incredible. I just gave some to my friend Derek from Sepultura. He traveled the whole entire world this summer, and he had those every single day. He said it saved him. I bring AG1s with me when I travel. It helps me stay healthy. You know the deal. If you're on tour and you are a picky eater, but you need to have your greens, sometimes catering doesn't have greens. Sometimes you miss the catering. Sometimes you miss the backstage food. Sometimes it's too late after the show to go get food that you like. So if you just have a scoop of AG1s in your hotel room before you go to bed, or you're in the hotel room at night and you're starving, you want something healthy, boom, life changer. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with some convenient daily nutrition. That's all you need, 1 scoop in a cup every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. This is it. I'm super psyched. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/OLLC. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/OLLC to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. This is incredible. I love it. It's just basic greens. For me personally, this has changed my life tremendously. I'm not a junk food vegan. I don't eat a lot of fake meats, so I'm strictly greens. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful new addition to my life. So once again, visit athleticgreens.com/OLLC. and get 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. athleticgreens.com/OLLC. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. They have now blessed me with my own code. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst. Stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives. Check, microphone check. Welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I have a very special guest in my kitchen. Please welcome to the podcast, Magdalena Wosinska. Did I say it right?
You said it right.
Magdalena
I'm proud of you.
Wosinska,
Yeah.
Poland. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we met at dinner at Rich Roll's house. I don't know if that was like a year ago or 2 years ago. Everything's kind of like going by really fast. When was that, you think?
A year and a half ago. How old is Rich? When is his birthday? A year and a half ago, because if we didn't get reinvited to the next party, that's how we know it's been 2 years.
Oh, shit.
So it's been a year and a half.
Okay. That was amazing because it was like a table with all kinds of people that nobody really knew each other. And we always start talking. It's just a very small world with music. And then like a week or two later, I did a photo shoot with Caddis, and you were the photographer when I came there.
Totally. I know.
It's pretty cool.
And we talked about hardcore.
Yes.
That's how we connected, because I was like, have you heard of this band called Scowl?
Yes.
Yeah.
And since then, I've had them on the podcast, and that's fucking cool. That's right. You were telling me about them. That's true.
Yeah.
So how are you? Welcome.
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So this is your first face-to-face podcast?
Totally. It's usually over Zoom, and then I can just like hide myself in the corner and pretend that I'm not embarrassed.
I never did a Zoom podcast. I refuse to do that or do phone calls. I don't know. I just feel like face to face is nice. You know what I mean? It's intimate.
Totally. And I get to look at all your sponsors on your kitchen table like Liquid Death.
All right, I'm going to get into your journey because somehow you came from Poland to Arizona, correct?
Yeah.
But let's get back to Poland because I love Poland. We were just talking about before the podcast. I'm playing there next year. We play there every time we go to Europe. It's an amazing, amazing, passionate, hardcore punk scene. The shows are always fucking awesome there. But how was it growing up there? And do you have siblings?
I do have siblings. I have 2 older sisters. I mean, growing up in Poland, as I remember, it was a beautiful, amazing experience because I was like an innocent kid. But meanwhile, what I grew up around was something that I now am recognizing how fucked up it was. I mean, growing up in post-World War II Poland and communism in a very suppressed system, it was something that you end up learning a lot from. For instance, I think I'm the most frugal person I've ever met because we used to get oranges for Christmas. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Whereas people maybe in other countries like America were getting a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And we had to drive to Prague to get shoes and socks. And like when everybody freaked out of the pandemic that there was no toilet paper in the stores and they had to use newspaper, I was like, this is nothing new to me. But it was a very, it was a journey of hardship. But when you're a kid, that's just normal for you. But I remember one time my mom asking me to go to the store when I was like 6. Also, when you're a little kid, like you're totally fine to just go walk to the grocery store by yourself after 6, 7 years of age. Like it's not like people are freaking out and not letting you do your thing. So my mom would be like, hey, go to the store when I was 6. And I was just so intimidated to like walk up to the cashier and ask for a stick of butter. But I waited for like an hour or something to get a stick of butter. And by the time I got to the counter, they're like, I'm sorry, there's no butter. Come back in a month. And I'm like, a month?
Wow.
And they're like, yeah, come back later. I'm like, what am I supposed to tell my mom? There's no butter, So that's kind of how I was raised, in a place where everything that you got was like very sacred and special. So moving from a place where you get oranges for Christmas and then all of a sudden I have an orange tree in my backyard in Arizona, you're just like, mind is blown.
Wow.
And all of a sudden it's like money grows on trees and it's like the idea of the American dream.
Damn. How old were you when you moved to Arizona?
I was 8.
And how'd that happen? Like, why Arizona?
My parents got a job offer between Canada and Phoenix, Arizona. I don't remember where in Canada, but they were both psychology professors, and I think that they just wanted to have a good life for their children.
Yeah.
So they decided to move where there's probably more opportunity. Not saying that we wouldn't have had a good life in Poland. I often wonder, like, if I stayed there, how I would be, who would I be, how I would manage and navigate myself through the world. But, they took the opportunity and then they decided to go somewhere warm. So, we came to Phoenix, Arizona in 1990.
And how was it? Was it it had to have been crazy culture shock?
Oh, totally. I mean, back to the oranges, like I remember back to the oranges. I mean, I remember landing on the plane from Warsaw to Phoenix and like wearing a little fur coat because it was like October and it was freezing in the Eastern Bloc. And then all of a sudden you're landing in Arizona. It's like 70 degrees. And I landed, and as the plane was landing, my mom gave me bubble gum because my ears were popping. And I was like, why are you giving me bubble gum? This is like a delicacy. I get this for Christmas once a year. Like, we don't get bubble gum. So I was in shock with what the behavior already was and how it was shifting as we were landing in this new land. And then when we got to the airport, my dad was here half a year prior to us to like organize everything. So he picks us up in this red minivan. And I've never seen a minivan. I was like, what is this house on wheels? This is crazy. There's 7 seats. This is insane. We had like a red Fiat that fit a family of 5. And then afterwards, I ended up getting in the minivan and the sliding door opens. And I was like, I've never seen a sliding door in a car. Like, it felt like the future.
Wow.
And then we get in the car. And then we start driving down the freeway as the sun sets in Arizona. And then there's just like trees lining the freeway that had oranges falling into the road. And my mom and I just start banging on the windows, screaming like, we need to stop the car and give all the oranges to our cousins and ship them back home.
Wow.
And my dad's like, just wait till you get home. And I was like, what happens when we get home? And he's like, just wait and see. And I remember like pulling up into our tiny little, very modest, very, very modest house in Tempe, Arizona. My parents made the garage become a bedroom so me and my sisters could have the other room. And it was a very like, modest way of living. We didn't have any money when we came here because it was a huge risk, but we came here for the opportunity. And I remember walking inside, and the carpets that were lining the floors were foreign to me, because in Poland no one had carpets because plastic was a luxury. Everything there was paper and glass. And here, a lot of rugs are made with plastic in them, and it was really unique to walk in, and there was a carpet, not a hardwood floor, with a rug, and then the blinds that were like the plastic blinds that turn.
Yeah.
Instead of paisley curtains. And I was like, what is this shit? I don't like it. And then my dad's like, come in the backyard. And it started getting darker, and I was super jet lagged, and I didn't know what jet lag was at the time. And he's like, come in the yard, come in the yard. So I start following him through the backyard, and then we get to the corner of the yard, and then all of a sudden he's like, just put your hand up and touch this tree. And then he took my hand, and I touched an orange, and I had an orange tree in my backyard.
Wow.
And he's like, welcome to America. And I was like, oh my God.
That is amazing.
But it was so hard. I didn't understand the language.
I was going to ask you how your English was.
Non-existent. Mm-hmm. So I watched Aladdin on TV, and I listened. It's funny because I'm 39 now, and it's just probably not good that I cuss as much as I do as a grown woman, but I cuss a lot like a sailor, and I'm like, where did this come from? But I realized I learned how to speak English by listening to Eazy-E and Tupac. And there was a lot of cussing and that kind of time, and so that's what was my education for English, and then watching television. Damn. So that's where it came from. But the culture shock was kind of gnarly, and I don't know if I just forced myself to like it, but I was just like, well, I don't have a choice, so here I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, growing up really poor, it was hard because everybody had American clothes with these cool little logos like Guess jeans, and my parents couldn't afford any of that stuff for me, so it was hard to feel welcome by the other kids, and kids are fucking assholes when they're young, and they tease you. And so I would just wear the same outfit every day that my mom would wash for me every day that I was really proud of, and I would just get teased for wearing the same outfit. So I had a very hard time, just kind of blending in with the young kids in this world.
Yeah. Were there other kids from other countries at the school in Arizona?
I mean, most of the kids in my neighborhood were we were all in ESL together, English as a second language. It was a very Hispanic neighborhood. Yeah. And since those kids were kind of outcasted by regular American culture as well, that's the bond I had. So my sister would wear her brown lip liner and put her pager in her rib tank top and crop top, and we'd wear the filas and the baggy pants, and we were these Polish girls that wanted to be cholas so bad, but we were very accepted by the Hispanic kids, because we were foreign just how they were foreign. We were just Eastern Bloc, and I think that's where the introduction came to hip hop and things like that. So yeah, that's how we felt at home. But with the rest of the white kids, the American white kids, they were the richer kids that had the nice clothes that would give us shit. So I was like, eh.
And so, and how were you in school? Were you just super quiet? Do you play sports? What was your vibe?
I didn't really talk to anybody because I didn't know how to speak to anyone, because I didn't know English for three months. And then eventually, I was always really good at school and I was into art, but I think what happened that changed my life forever is around the age of 12, feeling very outcasted, I found skateboarding, and that changed my life. And it was just a family of misfits, and we all came together to create our own family, and it really shaped who I am as a woman now, because starting to skate, especially as a woman in the early 90s, that alone was being outcasted even in your own group of skaters. Yeah. Which is crazy. Yeah. But it was a really amazing thing to finally get into the groove. At first, the first 4 years I went to the skate park and I tried so hard to learn how to pop shove it or ollie the pyramid or do a heel flip. Everybody would just give me shit, and the older dudes would just push me into the bowl, and they're like, this is how you learn how to drop in on vert. They just didn't give a fuck. And I was this tiny little girl, but they would just push you and shoulder you, and then eventually you just show up every day, and then they're like, I guess she's not leaving. And then they're like, okay, put your foot here. This is how you do a kickflip. This is how you do a heel flip. So slowly over the years of me just consistently being there, they started taking me seriously, that I wasn't just some little kid trying to get in their way, that I was hey, this is something I want to be a part of. So it took a long time to even get accepted in the skate scene, because at that point it was the 90s and I was a woman. Now people go to the Olympics in skateboarding that are females. Back then they just call you a pro-ho or a dyke or whatever the fuck they wanted
In the
to call
80s,
you.
were called skate betties.
Skate buddies is a lot nicer than Proho and Dyke. I'd prefer the 80s. The
yeah.
90s were like rough, and it wasn't really cool to see how men treated women back then. But, you know, I kind of dealt with it, and I thought that that was like a normal thing to be treated like that. So I had to take a lot of time to like reprogram my way of thinking after that. But at the same time, the people that were treating people like that were also like my brothers. But in a way, like when you're in that situation, you almost have to become a man to feel safe. So I was like a dude my whole life. Like through my teens, my 20s, and now in my 30s, this is the time where you try to find your identity as feminine because, you know, you have to prove yourself and you have to wear the leather jacket and the armor and the baggy pants and cut your hair short so you can blend in so you won't get fucked with.
That's fucking crazy, man. Think about that and how different it is now.
So
different.
different.
Way more accepting and way more open-minded.
People are so open and, you know, woke and like willing to talk about their feelings. It's crazy. But back then, like, I didn't have role models or mentors. I didn't even know there was another girl that would skateboard except for the 2 girls at the park that I would see in the 10 years of my, you know, skating time in Arizona.
Yeah, was it girl pros back then or anything?
There was Alyssa Steamer, but you'd have to have the internet to see that. I didn't have the internet. I was like 12, you know, and also like I didn't have money for skate videos and I didn't have money for gas to get anybody to pick my ass up to take me to a skate shop, you know? So like I didn't know pros existed. I didn't know any of that existed. I didn't even know you could make money off of it. But weirdly enough, 2 years after starting to skateboard, I found photography at 14. And then photography was my in even more into skateboarding because not only did I have a purpose to be there, but I could also like make people happy by taking their pictures. I started documenting my scene in skateboarding.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you go from the skate park. Now I had a reason to go street skating because I was like, I had my little run at the skate park. I could do a few tricks here and there, but I couldn't, you know, do some bangers down 20 stair handrail and do crook grinds. You know what I mean? But I could then have a purpose to be there. So it gave me a reason to belong in that family even more. And then as I started shooting photos, I mean, people never took me seriously back then, but it created what has become of my career now.
Yeah. That's pretty. What did your parents think about, one, you skateboarding, and then 2, like getting into photography? Did they have like a different vision for your life, or they just wanted you to be happy and do what you want?
My parents definitely were very fucking cool and supportive and open, but also very judgmental and coming from a very strict world where you have to have an education. You have to get a PhD. You know, I remember I worked my ass off because, again, I'm really frugal and good with money. So I bought my first house when I was like 24 in LA as a photo assistant, making like $100 a week.
That's incredible.
And like I did that because I busted my ass. I bought it with an ex-boyfriend 50-50. We split it when we broke up. I bought him out. But that was like a big accomplishment to buy a house in Highland Park in 2008.
Yeah, that's huge. That's amazing. At 24 too.
Yeah, and it was like I was photo assisting. I wasn't making shit for money. But when I did that, it was one of those things where I thought that would be something that my parents would be proud of. And they would just keep saying, go back to school and get your degree. They didn't get it. They didn't get how important that was, especially to purchase like a place in Los Angeles, one of the more expensive cities in America. Yeah. So they were supportive, but they also didn't understand. And then as far as the skateboarding went, I mean, with the art, my parents kind of like said, fuck it, do you. We can't force you to be, you know, a person like us. Because everyone, my 2 older sisters have like 3 PhDs each. They're all super geniuses. And my mom spoke 7 languages and my sisters spoke 5 and my dad spoke 4 and everybody just has their thing. But as far as the skateboarding thing went, I think I was having such a hard time understanding how to be a kid in America that when I found that, my dad was like, okay, I'll take you to this thing called a skate park. Because one of his students at school told him about skate parks, and I became friends with his students. So when I was 12, I was hanging out with 18-year-olds because they were going to college. And then these 18-year-olds took me under their wing, and they were like kids that would go to the skate park. And so once my dad dropped me off at the skate park, and he's like, wow, it's crazy to watch you just fall and eat it and hit your head and hit your tailbone and get bruised and get bumped into and fall down over and over and over. And he's like, you just get right back up as if the concrete didn't affect you. And I think my dad seeing that in me made him trust the fact that, okay, if I drop you off at the park and come back in 4 hours, you're going to be okay. Yeah. Because there's resilience there.
Totally.
But that resilience, it definitely came from that Eastern Bloc mentality. It's such an ancestral thing. It's not just being a tough kid. It's the immigration. It's like what like the crazy shit my family lived through, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's where it came from.
It's pretty amazing. Just like how skateboarding is such a freedom and expression and release and everything, and how like same for me. I got into skateboarding around the same age when I was like 12, maybe was it 82, and it just changed everything for me. Now I was like the black sheep of the family. I feel like you're like the black sheep of the family as well. Yeah. And then you find your people, your tribe.
Yeah,
totally. You know, it's like,
and it's the family too that now so many years later, like I stopped skating in my 20s. Once I didn't get a chance to be a skate photographer, like I'm still trying to be the first woman to shoot the cover of Thrasher.
Wow.
But I don't know if anyone's going to let me.
It could happen. You never know.
No, I hit up Mike Burnett. I DM him, but he doesn't write me back. But it's like, you know, it's one of those things that I like know the best people I've ever met through skateboarding, and I'm still friends with them. Like kids that I knew from the time I was 14, and like we're forever going to be like bound by blood. You know, it's like my brothers, my sisters. It's like such a tight family.
Yeah. So you start taking pictures more than you're skating at that point when you really fall in love with photography?
It was both. I mean, I was such a skater till I like moved to California when I was 20. And I moved to California to actually start pursuing skateboarding photography. Okay. And I remember going to Big Brother, and I had, I don't know, it was Big Brother or Slap. I think it was Big Brother. It was in some building on Wilshire back in the day. And I remember I had my portfolio of all the skate photos, and like, you know, I worked at the food court at Fiesta Mall at Miss Field's Original Cookie Company when I was 14. I lied about my age, told him I was 16, so I could save money, so I could buy a Nikon F5 camera. And
I was going to ask you how you afforded your first camera.
Yeah, I lied about my age. And then a week before my 16th birthday, they found out that I wasn't of age, so they fired me. But at that point, I saved enough money in 2 years to buy a Nikon F5 and buy film.
Wow. And so how much is that camera back then?
I don't remember. Probably 500. I don't know, more maybe, but like so much for a kid. Yeah. I mean, I'm 14. You know, it's like $1 feels like 1,000. You know, but I still have that relationship with money. I feel like I'm still super frugal, and I still live in that mentality, which is good.
Yeah, because you bought a house at 24 being frugal. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, totally. So, but when I started shooting more photos, I skated equivalent to like the same amount of time as I would shoot photos. But then when I went to interview like at Big Brother, I was like, hey, look at all my sick photos I shot. And I had like the fisheye that was really expensive. I bought the camera. I got the sequences down. I had the film. I had the lights. I had the strobes. I had the pocket wizards. I had the whole kit. But I was shooting local kids in Arizona, and since they weren't pros, nobody would take me seriously. And I'm like, well, the pros won't take me seriously, but I need to have an opportunity and a chance to come up with somebody. So like I just shot photos of all the local kids. Like best skater ever, Jared Saba. Love that guy. He like shot photos with me all the time. He was the sickest skater ever. But when I went to Big Brother and I showed him everything, they're like, we don't know who these people are. Plus, you're super young. No one's going to take you seriously. And no one's going to take you on tour because they won't take you seriously, or they're going to try to fuck you. So that's it. And I was just like, cool. I literally worked towards this for like 8 to 10 years. And then my dream was shattered because I was going to move to LA. And then I was able to shoot photos of like pro skaters because there was going to be respected as an artist, as a photographer. But here's the only difference between me and all those other guys. I'm a woman. And I never realized that at the moment. Damn. I just thought I wasn't good enough. But I was good enough because I was shooting photos the same way that a lot of these other guys were shooting photos. And it's funny because the people that would never give a shit or give me the time of day back then all totally respect me now as a photographer.
Wow.
Like, you know, 25 years later. But it's kind of like, I know that I remember the people that didn't give a shit. And then I remember the people that did give a shit. So it was,
in you,
yeah, and it was like a unique experience. So by the time I came to California in my early 20s and I like really wanted to shoot skating, and it wasn't happening, and nobody gave me the time of day except for like some of the black label dudes, like Patrick Melcher was always down, Adam Alfaro, Jim Gagney, like Ragdoll, those guys. They were like, yeah, you can come shoot with us. But nobody else did. And then I was like, I'm not going to be able to make money or shoot ads or anything. So I was like, fuck it. I guess I'm not a skate photographer anymore. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck skateboarding. I'm over this. Because it just was like such a sad breakup, you know, like it's brutal. Purpose. And then I was like, I was getting older, and like I didn't want to get hurt. So somebody told me to start assisting photographers, and I'm like, what's that? what does that mean? And they're like, that's when you work for other people. And I'm like, why? I'm already a photographer. I've already been shooting for like the local newspaper in Arizona and the magazines. And at one point when I was like 17, 18, I got flown out to Paris and to Barcelona to shoot like an all-girl skate trip back then. And I was like, wait, what? You guys are flying me out and I have my own apartment and you guys are going to pay for my film? This is crazy. So that's when I realized that you can have photography as a job.
Yeah.
But then I come to LA, you know, I was like a shark in a puddle in Arizona, and here I was like a little sperm in an ocean. Nobody gave a shit about my existence. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to assist. And then I started assisting photographers for years and years and years, but I was always shooting photos. I never stopped shooting photos ever. I never got discouraged. I always shot photos from 14 to now. And I'm still like obsessed with it. Like taking pictures is my favorite thing. Storytelling is my favorite thing. If I didn't have that in this lifetime, I don't know. I might be a psychologist or a dog walker, but I'm so grateful that my soul found that connection to tell stories, because I think that that's truly my purpose, and I'm so fucking grateful for it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you, when you graduated, that was your goal, just to go to California, and that was what you're going to do?
I dropped out right before I graduated.
Oh, wow.
And my parents got real pissed, but I was like, you know what? They don't even let me take any more photo classes, and I don't have a purpose to like continue an education at Arizona State University when I can go to California and get paid for an education. Because assisting, at first you intern, then you end up assisting people that are paying you to teach you about the world of photography. And all that mattered so much. Like being in the car with the photographers I worked for and hearing them on conference calls with clients and how they would navigate problem solving and how they talk about their ideas and shoots was such a blessing to have, because nowadays everyone's like, 18, they have an iPhone and they're already a photographer.
Yeah.
But they're getting set up for failure when clients hire them and pay them a lot of money to do something they have no experience doing. Like they should be assisting. They should be having those ears in the back of the car listening to what a conference call sounds like. It's just like,
true.
It can't be just handed out too easily, because people really do have to go through the step-by-step process. And you can figure it out and you can YouTube University your way into anything, but I don't know. I really enjoyed my experience of learning something under other people's wings.
Yeah. So you quit. So what are you, like 17?
So at this point, I'm like, when I moved to California, I'm 19, 20. And
when you quit, you just staying around town for a little bit working?
And then, when I was 20, I moved to LA, and then I just kind of stopped. I kept trying to shoot skate photos for a couple of years after that and kept skating. But like my skate family wasn't here, and it was in Arizona. And here it was just like going to like Hollywood High and somebody doing something ridiculous, and they just have all their fancy photographers with all their fancy gear, with all the pros, with all their fancy cars. And I was just like, there's another disconnect. There was another like rebirth of myself, like moving. It was another new immigration to California from Arizona.
Yeah.
As a female skater and skate photographer, where nobody knows who you are and nobody takes you seriously, just how like nobody took me seriously because I couldn't speak the language 10 years earlier.
True. And
those rebirths happen every decade in my life. It's really weird.
So there was no women photographers back then either?
I mean, there was women photographers. I just didn't know any female skate photographers.
Yeah.
So I don't,
I'm
sure there's plenty now, and I'm sure there was some then, but with the lack of internet, there was not that connection. So I have like this massive portfolio of skate photos from the 90s and the early 2000s, and that's my next book.
That'd be awesome.
It's a book about like the entire archive of then, and I don't know how many women have done that from that time. Maybe if they've done it now, but I don't know if there's a lot of people that have published books about skateboarding in the 90s. And it's not like, when I say this to a lot of my skater guy friends, I'm like, oh, I'm making a skate book. They think it's just like portraits of pros from the last 25 years. And I'm like, no, they're like action shots, like lit with 2 flashes down a rail. Like they're like skate photos, you know what I mean? And it's funny because last month I got my like second paycheck in 25 years from shooting a skate photo of my friend Aquazi doing a wall ride, and it was for like a truck company for their catalog, and they paid me $150, and I was like, sick, second photo I've ever gotten paid for in skateboarding. And before that, it was like my ex boyfriend Ethan Fowler for a Ruka ad.
Oh wow!
And I've only shot like 2 ads in like 25 years in skating, so the fact that skating didn't work out is a blessing, because then advertising worked out, and advertising brought me into a whole nother gamut and world of photography. And then it also opened up my creative freedom to make personal projects that I do on the side. So
so how long were you doing the assisting before you started selling your own photos and getting hired to take photos?
I mean, I was always kind of getting hired to take my own photos, like with lookbooks and like little tiny brands and stuff. But it wasn't until I was like 26 that I shot my first ad job. And back then, being 26 was really young, because you got to remember there was no internet, there was no Instagram accounts. Websites were expensive and difficult and coding and hard to make, so that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So if you're getting hired at 26 to shoot advertising, it's kind of like, holy shit, how did people know you exist? You know what I mean? Because you weren't one of these established photographers. But from 20 to 26, I was assisting. And then I think I was assisting for quite a while, maybe 27, 28, still while I was shooting ad jobs, because I was like not willing to let go of that paycheck yet.
Yeah. So you're still doing what you love at that point, because you're working with photography, whether you're taking them or not. You're still assisting. You're making money, and you're still like, you're on your like road of stuff you love to do still.
Yeah, and I was always shooting my surroundings, and at that moment in time too, from 21 to 30, I was in a metal band, so we traveled the world.
What? What did you do in the band?
I played guitar.
And what were you guys called?
It was called Green and Wood, and it was just like a super stoner rock Sabbathy band.
Okay.
And I just played rhythm guitar and kind of a little bit of lead guitar towards the end, and we traveled South America and Europe and a lot of different places. And so I was photographing my surroundings in the metal band in my early 20s, and then I put that together with just portraits of people on my journey through the world. And I made a book when I was like 25 called Bite It, You Scum. And then that's what like kind of got the attention of my photo agent, who I've been with since for 15 years. They found out about the book, and I've always self-published books. And so that's kind of how like I started doing the world of advertising and had the support in that way. But
that's cool.
Yeah. And playing music was like the substitute to skateboarding. Like I kind of like walked away from that family, but not really. They were always my friends. Skaters and metal kind of mixed. Mm-hmm. And then like when I started playing guitar, it was really cool to have another sense of brotherhood that was like me and three dudes and just like a sense of family. It felt very similar to skateboarding.
Yeah.
But yet again, it was still me on tour with like 30 guys covered in tattoos with long hair looking like Vikings, and I was like the only woman.
Wow.
And then funny enough, in advertising, it's like 6% of women shoot advertising, because a lot of women shoot a lot of different things in fashion, but in the advertising world, they're shooting motorcycles and cars, like the stuff that I love to do. There's still only 6% of us. And then directing commercials and stuff like that's a lot more common for women now, but it hasn't been. So it's always like, why am I choosing always to be a man? You know what I mean? So it's like, why am I choosing this journey? But that's just like, I think that's like the process of my ancestry and the where I came from, to have a reason to be here, to be like, to prove that you have a reason to be heard and seen. And if I'm strong and tough like a man, maybe I will be. But that's kind of fucked with me in my 30s, because it does fuck with your femininity. Then sometimes you're so alpha that you freak people out. And so you have to understand how to not be like that, I guess. Or maybe, but also like, fuck that, I am who I am. 100% unapologetically myself. But I'm like learning that process right now, because it's just such a unique journey to just be very independent and not need anybody but want somebody. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You never married?
No. I was engaged for 4 years, but I guess that's what I'm circling back to, is like dating right now as an independent, successful 39-year-old woman in a place like Los Angeles is so difficult.
I can't imagine.
Because one thing I'm learning is like, a lot of people say they want their equal. They don't. Men don't want their fucking equal. They say it, but when I experience guys that have their shit together like me, they don't like the fact that I have my shit together.
Intimidated too.
Totally. And I'm just like, we can grow and like grow a family and a life together and all these things. But then when the guys are like a little bit less successful or don't really have their shit together, they love you because you can like be their mom. You know what I mean? And it's such a weird dynamic. So I guess like I can't really say I need to change or soften up, because I am who I am.
There you are, yeah.
It's just like observing this. I'm just like, is there like a weird dynamic that happened with the roles of women and men, and women in power, and women that have careers and are making money, or sometimes making more money? And like, why is it emasculating to men? Like, wouldn't someone be excited to know that they're wanted, but not just needed?
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. I want to be wanted. I don't want to be needed.
Yeah.
You know? And that's fucking cool.
Are you a hopeless romantic?
Totally. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I'm just too much of a giver.
I'm a giver too. Same.
Yeah. And so that...
I'm a very emotional, sensitive, giving person.
Yeah, me too. And that's what's hard because like people see me as this fucking ball on fire. But when you're in my intimate like bond, I'm a very like loving person that can definitely... I understand compromises. I've been in long relationships, 10-year relationship, a 4-year relationship. Like I've been in relationships from 17 to 37 with 6 different people. And now it's funny because this is the longest I've been single and it's for 2 years. And I just started being like, okay, fuck it. My friends are like, get online and date.
So you're on the apps right now?
Oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. I got on them 2 months ago and I'm just like, this is a joke. Dudes do not even talk to you. They will send you like a flame emoji when you look cute on your Instagram stories, but they will not approach you. They will not write you. They will not talk to you. There's just like this insane process.
Disconnect though too. It's like not real life on that shit.
It's not real life. And it's like, there's this pussification of men that has happened. And the good ones are taken. And a lot of the single guys are just like, there's just so much, there's like a lack of courage and so much shame that people carry. And also ego. Like we shop for people the way we shop at like Costco. There's so many options. I don't want a lot of options. I just want basic human connection. Being like, you're rad, I'm rad. Like, it'd be nice to go on a date with a guy that would ask me questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm always asking
and actually listen to the answers too, though.
Yeah, and I'm always asking the questions because for my job as a photographer and doing a lot of documentary work, I'm really good at asking questions, and I'm really good at like leading the conversation so it doesn't get boring.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I don't want to be more fascinating or funnier or more inquisitive. Like, it's just finding people that are on the same wavelength. And guess what? Dating apps. I don't know. In the last 2 years after COVID, people got so fucking disconnected.
Yeah, we disconnected before and even worse now.
Worse now, because a lot of people are like, oh, I met so-and-so on the dating app. So many people said that. And I was like, I don't hear that anymore, like in 2022. We have too many options. You can look at anyone's life on Instagram and be like, I want that, or I want a girl that looks like that or does this. Or you can literally DM anybody you want. You have access to everybody. And there's just like, oh, I don't want to fight for this, or this is too hard, or like, oh, this girl wants me to chase her or ask her to dinner. That's too much effort. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm asking guys to dinner. And eventually I'm just like, I can't. I literally could give a fuck at this point. I'm just like, I just want to make my art and hang out with my dogs and travel the world with my friends, because it's just like, I kind of put off the dating app thing for a while, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll meet somebody cool. And I put it off for a while, and then I finally did it, being like, okay, there's definitely cool people outside of my friend group here.
Totally.
And it's just like fucking duds. And when you try it, it actually makes you more hopeless. So I'd rather step away from it, because chasing unavailable guys is just one, something I don't want to do. And B, I don't want to feel rejected.
Yeah, it must be a weird thing, like picking somebody on the internet, then meeting them in real life, what the reality of that is as well. Not being catfish or anything, but is this really the same person that they're describing in their bio on this app? I don't know. I've never been on an app. I'm just saying, like,
the weird and interesting thing is, like, some people that want to sound like they have good banter and game, or they like are funny, they can do that on a text. They can't do that in real life. And I'm always like, oh, am I intimidating? And men just are nervous around me. But I make sure people are so comfortable, because within the first 5 seconds, I know how to break down walls and barriers, because I shoot like the gnarliest celebrities for the cover of the New York Times all the time. They're like, you have 3 minutes to have Joaquin Phoenix fucking love you and trust you. Go shoot the best photo ever. You know what I mean? So like, I am a professional at making sure people feel comfortable around me.
Yeah.
So when it comes to going on a date, I do that. And then I guess I'm just hitting a bunch of walls.
But that's just intimidating to people that you do have your shit together and you don't need anybody. You own your own shit. You do your own stuff. But it shouldn't be an tip. It should be inspiring to somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she got her shit together, man.
It should be inspiring, but I gotta say, like, being a person that also like does the work and goes to therapy and is healthy and like gives a shit and has a spiritual practice, it's so fucking lonely to be doing good and feeling good and having a good relationship with yourself, because most people want to drink their way out of it. They want to fuck their way out of it, whatever pain and grief they go through. They want to work their way through it. Workaholics. People don't sit in their, certain situations of discomfort. It's like to get to pay attention to themselves. Yeah. And I've had a lot of very heavy things happen in the last 3 years, and a lot of losses where I just needed to sit in it. And it's okay to sit in the sadness and just be. and just exist and like do the work. And I feel so good at like just being my own friend now, not needing an escape by getting dopamine from other people or from a paycheck or like a big ad job. Like I had to find, like, all that stuff got stripped away from me in the last year. And I had to just like exist only in my feelings. And that's such a hard place to be. But I'm the strongest person I've ever met because I went through all of this shit alone. And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to get to that because I read your post, end of the 2021, losing your mom. All that stuff was heavy. And then also the Joaquin Phoenix picture you're talking about with the skateboard is amazing, by the way. Beautiful photo.
Thank you.
But I read your whole thing and talking about being suicidal and all. You got really deep and personal. And I even read where you said, like, you know, and this is a real heavy reality, is like people that don't even know us on social media care more about us than some of our closest friends. I'm getting emotional thinking about it now because I read it and I feel the same way you feel about that. That hit pretty heavy for me. Like, some of your biggest supporters are people who never even fucking met you in real life. And so you can go on the social media, you can vent all that stuff that I read about feeling suicidal, about losing your mom and all that shit. It was really heavy. But it's true. It's so true. And even if it's not like a real love in real life, but the people responding and comment and like saying nice things about the loss of your mom and stuff you're going through, that stuff really connects.
Totally. And, you know, it's interesting because the closest people to you sometimes don't know how to show up because they don't know that feeling.
Like an emo just saying that to you anyway. So.
No, totally. But it's like, you know, it's hard. And it's like a lot of people don't know how to show up and like we can't expect them to. And like at that point, I was kind of really needing a support system. Yeah. And so I got a support system from a bunch of strangers. And weirdly enough, most of the people that hit me up were people from Poland.
Wow.
But it was something that was really powerful because one of the first people I called after my mom passed was my friend Austin Gillette. He's a skater and he's a really good friend of mine and I fucking love him dearly, but he lost both of his parents, unfortunately. And I called him, not my closest other friends. I called him because I just said, it's us and them, isn't it? And he knew exactly what I was talking about. He's like, yep. And I'm like, yeah, it's us, the people that lost parents, and them, the people that haven't. And there's just a different understanding.
Yeah.
And so when I kind of put my feelings out on the internet, I needed support that I wasn't able to get, or an understanding I wasn't able to get from my friends. And God bless my friends that did show up and knew how, or didn't know how. But it was so important for me to connect with people, and that saved me. That saved me because so many people told me about their experiences of losing their parents, or taking care of their parents, or also culturally in Poland, how when your parents are older, you live with them or they live with you. You take care of them. And in our culture, you don't just throw them away in a nursing home or put them in a hospital forever, you know? So it was a very deep connection for me to be like, okay, I did the best I could. Thank God.
Yeah. And you were there for your mom and she knows that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I lost my dad when I was 3 and I just started going to therapy last week at 52 years old.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing so far. I got some books to read, and one of my guests on this podcast inspired me to do so. A girl named Jessica Alexander, you might know in the skateboard world. She does the Nike SB conditioning and training for athletes. Amazing. Skateboarders, yeah. Amazing human, and she told me her story. And so, yeah, I'm going to therapy because of that. So, yeah, even at 3 years old, I'm 52, that shit still fucked me up. So I know what it's like. You just lost your mom recently, too, you know what I mean? It's like, you never get over it, you know what I mean?
You never get over it, and it's like, I'm really sorry about your loss, because it's like what a journey your whole life has been, not understanding or like recognizing what you can do through therapy until now. But it's so amazing you did. You know, I never went to therapy until the biggest shit hit the fan in my life too, and I'm so grateful. But God, I wish I went when I was 19 so I didn't make the shitty decisions and choices that I made all of my 20s and 30s with the men I was with the choices I made, with the drugs I did. But you know what? They also shaped me who I am. And thank God at like 37, I started going to therapy, or 36, I think. And that really shaped, like, I mean, I'm a changed woman from 37 to 39 just by going to a good therapist, doing the work and learning a lot. And I've been doing like dream analysis workshops with my therapist, and like hypnosis workshops, and learning how to put myself in a trance.
Damn, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
She mentioned that for me.
To do deeper work and, you know, to be creative. But it's like saved me. And that's what's so cool. Like I can be okay just existing and being alone, because I learned that like I am such a gift in this world to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We forget that. And our parents, you know, whenever we lost them, whether it's like when we're 3 or when we're 38, they're looking out for us. They're always with us. And I've had some incredible connections with some people and healers that I know that I talk to where they help me communicate with my mom a little bit. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people. No, it's not crazy at all. No. I recently had something actually on Saturday that happened, and it was brought up to me, and it like I'm constantly learning after my mom's death, and I'm constantly learning from her, and she's constantly bringing me messages and new things for me to learn from and how to move forward. It's insane how I can
believe in all that, man. I really do.
Me too.
I believe my dad's been watching over me and my brothers our whole entire life. I see different things here and there throughout my life, and I really believe that for sure.
Totally. And he is you, you know, you're like half of his heart and DNA and everything. Like our parents are just, they are living, breathing things. And one thing I learned about death sitting at its face, holding my mom as she took her last breath, was that there is no end when you die. It's not the end of everything, your life, your breath or whatever, because it's just a transition. And it's not like her body entered me and, you know, when she passed away and I got her strength, everything that wasn't mine to carry ancestrally, I asked her to take to the grave with her a few days before she died, and she agreed. And when she died, she did me a favor. She like took away a lot of the pain that wasn't mine to carry in this lifetime. And that's what died. The disease died, the dementia died, the cancer died, the body died, but my mother and her soul didn't die. It just transitioned. And she's almost closer to me now than when she was when I lived in LA and she lived in Denver, and we just had phone calls. Like I used to always call her on my long drives, and now I just kind of talk to her on my drives.
Still. Which
is funny because I probably look like a fucking crazy person, like driving to Big Sur with my dogs in the back, and I'm just like windows rolled down and I'm having a conversation with a ghost. But, you know, and I also started praying, which I'm not religious, but when she died, I started praying every morning, and it's like I get to go to my own little Magda church every morning, and it brings me such a sense of self and a connection.
Wow. So you weren't religious growing up?
We were Catholic in Poland. Yeah, and then we were Catholic here, and then my parents were like, this shit sucks. And I was like, cool, you guys, duh, I told you, I've been telling you for years. And then we bounced. But, you know, I understand why people go to church, because there's a sense of community. And, like, my dad's coming to visit me in 2 weeks, and I'm going to totally take him to the Polish church, because now, as an adult, I find church and mass fascinating, like how the priest sings in Latin, and I just love watching I look at it like a movie, and I'm just taking away, like, the silence and the meditation of the echoes. And that's all it is for me. So I'll probably take him to church just to, like, have that experience. But, yeah.
Yeah. So during the pandemic is when your mom passed?
My mom passed last September 18th.
We're still in it, kind of.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, you know, last summer I was with her for 5 months, and it was such a funny time in life because I just went through a really gnarly breakup that was very confusing.
You did?
So I was grieving. And then prior to that, I was going through a breakup with a fiance. So then I had like a year relationship after that. So it was like grieving 2 really big relationships. Also, like, being at an age where I was like, I want to be a mother. Will I be a mother? What's that going to be like? Do I freeze my eggs? Do I not? That's a whole nother story of what happened with that. But that was kind of traumatic.
But did you freeze your eggs?
I tried to, and I had really bad side effects, and I almost bled to death.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I almost had to get a blood transfusion. It was really bad. I was like the 2% of women that it didn't work on. So I was like, you know what? If I ever have kids, it's going to happen naturally, but I'm not going to be able to do IVF. Like, I had a really, really bad thing. Like, I tried to freeze my eggs in April. In June, I almost bled to death in a hotel room.
From doing that, from the process?
Yeah, from the hormones. It was really fucked up. But I was going through so much loss last summer. Girl. And grieving. And grieving through my mom. And then, like, when she passed, when she was passing, you know, I had to find a way to, like, release myself. And so I was in Denver, sleeping on the couch, taking care of her, you know, changing diapers that were filled with diarrhea and blood and pus, and bathing her and carrying her body and feeding her and vacuuming and, you know, changing the diapers 100 times a day and washing her hair and doing this thing and reading her books and listening to Edith Piaf. And it's like on repeat. So when I was there, I was 100% there. And then I'd fly home to LA to take care of my dogs, take care of my house, work a little bit here and there, and then I'd fly back. So this was happening for 5 months. And then eventually it was happening that I was there like 5 days out of the week, and I'd come home to LA for 2 days out of the week. But towards the end, like June, July, August, September, I would fly home and I'd just go to a bunch of punk shows, hardcore shows, and just like I wouldn't even get, I drink, but I wouldn't even get drunk. I would just be sober, and I would just like fucking like rage and just like watch all the kids in the mosh pit and just like listen to all these crazy hardcore shows and punk shows and just thrash and then just cry and get on a plane the next day to take care of like my dying mother, and then be a nurse for 4 or 5 days and then come home and then just go to a bunch of shows, and just like the juxtaposition of like screaming 18-year-old hardcore kids jumping off a stage diving, to like weeping to Edith Piaf like while combing my mom's hair.
Fuck.
That was like my summer last year, and so it was like super heavy, but like I don't regret a fucking moment. I don't regret a moment. Like you don't get that time back, so I'm so grateful, and I'm so lucky I got to have that.
Yeah. How old was your mom?
78.
Wow.
So she had a stroke at 65, was partially paralyzed for the remainder of her time, and then she got diagnosed with cancer 2 years prior. Then she beat it, and then she got it again midsummer. And it was crazy. The way I found out is I had a really rough year. I mean, I've had a really fucked up 3 years, but this was like in the climax of like the year. And I remember I got some photos hung right in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I went to Paris with my best friends, and I was so honored to like see these huge, beautiful photos of this group of dancers called the Divas of Compton.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah, and so they were in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I walked up. It was like June 24th or something, and as I'm walking up, being like, oh my God, this is like the most amazing thing to make me feel proud. It's the first thing that's brought me joy this year.
Wow.
And right when I pull out my phone to like take a picture of the photos and me in the Eiffel Tower, my dad calls me and he's like, your mom's cancer came back. She might only have a few months. And I just like dropped my phone and like collapsed on the floor and just started just like crying on the bench, like looking at these pictures. Like that moment of happiness just got pulled from underneath my feet. And I was just like, fuck. And I remember just being like, when do I fly home? Do I fly home now? When do I fly home? And my dad would always pretend to be a little bit stronger than he was. And he's like, you're good. You don't need to come home. You don't need to come home. And I was like, fuck it, I'm coming home. And I was supposed to go to Amsterdam the next day to work on a book that I was working on about my mom with a publisher. And I got there, and the day I got there, I was like, I have to go. I got to go home. And I just like took an emergency flight home, and I just flew straight to see my mom. And I'm so fucking glad I did. And then after that, I just didn't leave her side for July, August, September.
Wow, man. That's a lot, man.
It was heavy. But, you know, like I look back at it and I'm just like, I'm not even sad. And I miss her, but I don't, because I'm so fucking connected to her. And I look at all the stuff. I mean, the amount of like even health shit that I've gone through this year, like even chipping my tooth 2 days ago and going to an emergency dentist this morning. Like when
you chipped it?
Yeah, and then I tore my MCL surfing like 3 months ago, and I couldn't walk for a month. And before that, I almost bled to death, and all this crazy shit happened this year. But at this point, I just laugh. Like, you gotta laugh, because you know what? I'm still so fucking alive.
Yeah.
But I notice when things are becoming a problem, when my friends are like, damn, Magda, like one shitty thing after another keeps happening to you. Like, you're gonna have to get a break. And I'm just like, but this is the break. Like, you know, it's the break, being able to fucking laugh about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good. You have losses and all this stuff, but I fall asleep feeling safe with a roof over my head and food in my fridge, and I get to take pictures for a living. Are you kidding? I have the most incredible life I could ask for. Yeah, shit happens, but I'm not living in Ukraine having my house bombed out, or in Iran getting shot because of what I am, you know, trying to show as a woman. And so
True.
It's crazy. And I have some friends actually that are like skater friends of mine from San Diego that are a part of a militia that are in Ukraine right now, posting how many people they lost this week.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm grateful even for the things that are hard and fucked up. I'm grateful every day to be like, dear God, thanks for chipping my tooth. Thanks for not letting me walk for a month. Thanks for letting me almost bleed to death, or God, or whatever, the universe, the source. And it just helps you keep on trucking. Resilience is a fucking, it's a thing in my life, I guess.
And where is your dad now? Where does he live?
My dad's actually in Denver. So
they were together then.
Yeah, my parents have been together for 61 years.
Oh, that's incredible.
So
that's awesome.
My dad we all moved here in the 90s, right? So my mom and dad lived in Arizona forever. And over COVID, like 4 years ago now.
4 years.
God, it's so crazy. Me and my ex moved them from Arizona to Denver to be closer to my sister when my mom got cancer. And so we sold the family house. And the crazy thing is, as we were selling the house, there was a box of photos that my dad lost 30 years earlier. And he for sure thought my mom threw it away. And it was a box of negatives that no one's ever seen. And as we're moving out of this family house of 30 years, my dad goes in the attic. If you can imagine, an attic in Phoenix, Arizona is like 150 degrees year round. So whatever's up there is just melted and fucked.
Yeah.
And my dad grabs one last suitcase and one last box, and he hands me the box, and he opens it, and it's just full of negatives. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, could this be the box of photos I thought that was thrown away 30 years ago? And I was like, probably. I'm like, give it to me. Let me take it to my lab. So I took it to the lab, and I got the film developed. It took a year because the negs were so damaged by the sun that they would just break.
Oh, wow.
They were just like brittle. And then the photos that I was able to develop were photos of my parents' entire childhood, pre-war, like during, like being born during World War II. Wow. And being young kids, teenagers, then them meeting, then them getting together, having children, getting married, losing a daughter, moving to America, immigrating, starting their lives over here. And so I got to learn through these photos as like my mother was dying. I was learning about her as a young woman and who she was before incredible. My father. And it was so amazing. So I'm making a photo book about her, and half of the book is from those photos that were found in that attic.
That is
and
awesome.
The other half are like the photos I shot of her for the last 10 years as she was my muse until the day she died. You know, I took a picture of her. She passed at 3:00, and I took a picture of her at 3:00 when I just put my hand on her head and I said, thank you for everything. You're beautiful. And she just went, and then I grabbed my camera and I took a picture of that. And it was just like the most powerful thing because that became our love language. And so now I get to continue and immortalize her through this book, you know, so.
Jeez, man.
So that was an interesting, you know, thing to find in the attic. And then after my parents moved to Denver, my mom passed, my dad stayed there. But now he's in a place where he's like, what's my purpose? I mean, I took care of your mom. I did my duty till death do us part, and literally did it till death do us part. And they didn't have the most healthy relationship, but you know, they had enough of a commitment, old school, which people here and now I wish understood what fighting for love meant and commitment. Because everyone's gonna have a hard time, but nowadays people are just like, cool, on to the next. Let me find what other girl is more fuckable on Instagram. Whereas like people back then, a lot of people shouldn't have stayed together, but the ones that did stayed together because they were solid motherfuckers. They understood commitment, and I salute that. You know what I mean?
I'm 27 years married now.
Hell yeah. And you know that it ain't easy, but it's like so important to learn commitment. I wish in this current culture people would understand, like, it's not about a million options. It's like options took over the idea of like committing.
Or objects. I mean? People seeing women as objects. It's like, oh, I'm gonna swipe. I'm gonna spend the night with a girl, and that's it. Like,
yeah, totally.
I was never like that. I was never a player. I was never a one night stand guy. I never understood any of that shit, man.
Yeah, and it's like that's like what it is, you know. And
that's all it is.
The fucked up part is like one of the dating apps is like connected to my Instagram, so guys see just a bunch of self-portrait nudes, and they just think that it's gonna be like that kind of vibe. And I'm like, oh, honey, you don't know. This is art. This isn't sex. But in American culture, if you're nude, it's over sexualized. So it's so funny.
True. But the Magdalena experience, I mean, that is just beautiful. Besides, obviously, for the listeners, it's one of her Instagrams. She has like 700 Instagrams. But it's you naked all around the whole fucking world, basically. I wrote down some of the places just in general, like Japan, Switzerland, Iceland, Italy, London, Poland, Portugal, Mexico, California, Montana, Arizona, Australia, Colorado, Utah, Texas, Ireland, South Africa, Scotland, Spain. It's fucking. I think it's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
It's so fucking cool, and it seems now talking to you, like hearing your story, it seems so freeing. There's something about it. It's like you just being naked out there in the fucking world. It's awesome.
And you know, maybe it's like my life journey of finding my femininity because I've always been a man. You know, it's like me being like, how do I find a sense of self and freedom? And I mean, the whole thing started nude like 25 years ago. I was shooting those photos before I was 18. So, so those aren't on the internet, obviously. But like, I was exploring photography and the human form and the human body. And then once I was like, in my 20s, I started taking these self-portrait nudes kind of like wherever I'd go. And then I put them on Instagram when Instagram became a thing. But this series has been going on way before Instagram.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was naked is because when I was young and I was poor and I was looking at the cover of magazines and all these girls had Chanel outfits on, I was like, well, I can't afford that. All I have is a ripped up flannel and some baggy jeans and some shitty skate shoes. And so if I was to photograph myself in those clothes, I'd be judged as what music I listened to, what genre of people I belonged to, and my social class, my status, whether I had diamond earrings in or nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I decided to be naked because then nobody would judge me if I was rich or poor, because I was so afraid of being seen as being poor, and that's why it became nude.
Were you nervous doing naked photos at first, or
You've
always been comfortable in your skin in that sense?
I think I was always comfortable in my skin because my mom always walked around naked.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't comfortable in my skin until I was in my 20s because I never wore shorts until I was like 25 because I had so many bruises on my legs from skating that I was really embarrassed to show people what I looked like. But when I was shooting these photos, it was just me with me. They were self-portraits, and that was me having a dance with myself. Nobody else was there. So if they saw it later, it didn't matter because there was already a disconnect because it was about that experience I was having with myself. So then I just started doing it all over the world, and various people that are with me are now helping me take the picture.
I was going to ask you, who takes those photos?
I mean, sometimes I take
ex-boyfriends or whatever. Whoever's
God, I just saw that movie, Triangle of Sadness, and it's like this. There's this part of the movie where the boyfriend is taking photos of the like influencer girlfriend in her bikini, like on vacation.
Oh, man.
And I was like, God, I hope my exes don't like compare me to that scene, because to me, I was like making art. I wasn't like trying to sell something. But yeah, a lot of friends, assistants on jobs, I also taped my like phone to like the wall with my bag tags from my suitcase in a hotel room. So it's like at eye level, or I would just prop it in a tree. Like I've done the most fucked up
DIY,
shit. Like I've taped my phone to like the ceiling fan and taken self-portrait nudes like that, however you can figure it out. But sometimes if there's a person, I'm just like, hey, I'll set the whole shot up and they'll do it. But the interesting thing is I noticed that like in American culture, the minute it's nudity, then it's over sexualized, and it's like, oh, it's sex. And I'm like, I'm not sitting there with like lingerie on, like luring.
I see it as
people
art.
in.
I see it as beauty and art. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I've had to run from cops for being naked
I was
in
going to
public.
ask you that.
Like I've had to climb over ice cold glaciers in Iceland to stand in like a field of snow. Like I've put myself in some windy, fucked up situations on cliffs, horses that were going to trample me, like, and you're naked and barefoot.
So you'd be chased by the cops, and
I mean, all of it
on people's properties. Like, what are you doing?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, just I've gotten into so many fucked up situations.
Does anybody ever come out and try to take a photo of you as well?
Probably, that I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely, like, I got naked in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I'm sure people were just like, this chick is crazy, but I'm so good at it. I do it so fast.
In front of the Eiffel Tower?
I mean, I just like stripped down to my ankles. Somebody shot it from the knees up, and then I was good.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like I'm sneaky. I'm really good at it. I can do it in like 3 seconds, And
your parents saw those photos on there?
Yeah, they did. And I mean, my mom never understood what I did till the day she died. She's just like, when I got a photo of me and her on the cover of the New York Times, and she goes, Magdusha, now I can write a book about what it's like to be famous before death. But I don't know what New York Times is.
That's a great impression. I don't know your mom, but that sounds...
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, she like, and she's like, why would anybody want two naked ladies from Poland on the cover of a magazine or a newspaper? I'm like, Mom, the New York Times is a big deal. And this photo is literally changing the conversation of how we treat elderly people in America or in the world. And everybody recognizes it, but she just didn't get it,
That's amazing.
But
that happened, yeah.
They were down with the Instagram. They're down with everything I do. And like, I was so annoying the last 10 years making videos and taking photos of my mom. And my dad was like always annoyed that I was always taking pictures of everything. And then after she died, I made a little compilation video of like our time with her and all the photos. And then my dad's like, thank you for doing that.
That's amazing.
Thanks for
That's
being
cool.
annoying for a decade. And I was like,
paid off.
I was like, I fucking told you so, Dad. But now back to my dad real quick. He is moving back to Poland.
Oh, wow.
After 30 years, and he got a job at the university at Warsaw, where he met my mom when he was 16, when he was a student there. Then he was a teacher there.
That's incredible.
In the 80s, and then he got a job offer there to teach psychology again, so he's going back to work at 80. All of our family's still there. His friends from the time he was in Boy Scouts when he was 7, they still live there.
So cool.
His TAs, his students, so he's going to go there, and I'm really excited because now I'll be able to go home and connect to, like, my like home.
Yeah.
Because like when you're living in America your whole life, but your brain is trained in the Eastern Bloc culture, you don't know if you identify as an American or you don't know if you identify as a Pole. And so I've always had
You said Pole?
Pole, yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, it's this in between, and you don't know who you are. And so I'm so glad in my like halfway through my life, I can start going back to where I came from, because I'll be visiting my dad 2 to 4 times a year, and I'm so fucking stoked he's moving back there.
That's really cool. It's beautiful, actually, going back to where he's from. And
yeah, to go die there, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to make a film there too about my parents' relationship and kind of the idea of immigration and things. So it's something I'm working on now. So I'll make the film in Poland, and like 3/4 of it will be there and 1/4 of it will be in America.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I'll be spending a lot of time there, and I'll just get to like live there as an adult for a little bit. I'm so excited.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then these photos on that, they're gonna be called a book called The Experience. You might be putting out.
Yeah. So I put out a book about that already in 2015, and then maybe I'll put out another book later on as the photos evolve.
Yeah. How many books do you have out now?
The Experience, Leftovers of Love.
Leftovers of Love. You have that here
Bite
too.
It, You Scum. And then I'm working on the skate book. So that's 4. And then the mom book is going to be 5.
And then what's like your favorite kind of photos to take? Is it lifestyle? Is it everything? Street? Commercial, sports? It doesn't really matter. You just love taking photos. There's not a specific kind of genre of photos, or
I mean, I just love human connection. So
Yeah.
whether I'm shooting a job for Facebook, like, you know, photographing families on tablets, to like shooting skaters and gutter punks, you know, I love it all, because I just love connecting with people. I mean, advertising is great because that's like what helps me make the money to put out the art that I want, because I've self-published all my books, and
it's cool.
so it helps me create like the things that I like. And then I love just shooting people and their environments, and I love shooting, you know, people for editorial magazines as well, because I would never get the opportunity to meet people like George Clooney if I wasn't shooting them for an editorial. And then you get to like hang out with them, and you know, their publicist says you have 10 minutes with them, and then you end up spending 2 hours with Clooney in his driveway talking about love, heartbreak, space, and tequila. And you're just like,
that was the driveway in those pictures.
that was like my driveway moment with him, you know.
Photos too, yeah.
He gave me like love advice, because that's like right after I went through the breakup, my mom died, and he was like, it took me till I was 60 to find the love of my life, and now I have 2 kids and the most amazing wife. And I was like, you're so cool.
He is cool. He looks pretty awesome too. Still looks amazing, right?
Amazing, yeah. And then he's like, you drink tequila? I'm like, yeah, sometimes. So he like signed a bottle of tequila and brought it out to me. And then we talked about my friend Jessica Meir, who's the coolest astronaut ever, and we just talked about space, because he's known some space stories, playing movies in space. Yeah.
How about Joaquin? He was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like had to prove to him that I'm not going to be a pushover. You know, there was definitely that, like, he fucked with me for sure. But once he knew that I wasn't going to have it, like, we totally bonded, and it was a great shoot. And, you know, oftentimes when these people come on set and they're like, we have 10 minutes, and I'm like, cool, I have 7 setups. They're like, why? We're only going to need 1 photo. And I'm like, we're going to need as many photos as we're going to take, because they might run more. And of course, the Times didn't run 1 photo. They ran like a bunch of photos. And then the one of him sitting on the skateboard ended up being like one of the most reblogged photos of my career, and one of the most liked photos on that New York Times Instagram. And so it's cool. And then, you know, Todd Phillips was with him, and I got to meet Todd through him, that directed The Joker. And through that, like, I got to like connect with Todd and see like his world, and, you know, watch his life through Instagram. And he follows me on Instagram. So it's like a cool way to meet people that I would have never met otherwise through shooting that kind of stuff. So I really love photographing people like that. For instance, Brian Johnson, who I just photographed for Business Week, that we're going to have lunch with this weekend. I mean, I would never meet these fascinating, incredible people in science and in the world of technology by just being a skater or a metal chick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there somebody you love to take photos of that you haven't yet?
Iggy Pop, 100%.
Wow. That'd be amazing.
A long time ago, he was on the cover of Mojo naked. When he was like younger, and I've always wanted to get a photo of me naked with him for the Magdalena experience, of us just like not cuddling, but him standing frontal, but like with his junk covered, and me with like the Magdalena experience, like him doing a version of the Mojo cover mixed in with the Magdalena experience. If I could just put those two together, like, I'd have to photograph Iggy Pop. He's like a fucking legend.
Or the Janet Jackson photo.
Oh my God. Yeah. With the boobs. Oh my God. Amazing.
Iggy Pop would be him. He still looks amazing.
He's amazing. He's just amazing. He's so cool.
And still sounds good and looks good and goes off. He's like 70 or something.
Yeah. 70 something. And he's playing at the Wiltern in December. Let's go with, I think, the Strokes.
Oh, that's sick. I've never even seen him before live.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
So you like shooting live bands too?
No, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
It's like the same thing over and over. I'm kind of like it. Also, like, if I go to a show, I want to hear the music. It's like if you're in the front shooting photos of this band, it sounds like shit. When everyone's like feeling special that they're side stage at some insane festival, it's like, cool, you can't even hear the band.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll go for 2 songs just because I'm like, this feels special. But I'm like, I want to get in the crowd. I want to be with everybody and just like get in the nitty gritty. And like, I love feeling the energy of people.
Yeah, it's cool not to bring your camera. Just go have fun and be in the moment.
Totally. And it inspires me. Like, I just recently got re-inspired to be like, fuck, I should start another band. I haven't played in 10 years. And now I'm like, am I too old to start a punk band at 39?
Nah.
Okay, cool. You want to be in my band?
I might.
Sick.
Was that your first band you did last? Was that the only band you've been in since?
Only band. And I only played like stoner rock. And then I was like, punk is easy. It's just a bunch of power chords. And if you play sloppy, it sounds fucking great.
True.
So I wrote a bunch of riffs and I'm like ready. I have like 10 songs. I'm ready.
And you didn't start playing guitar until you moved to America?
Yeah, I didn't play. I mean, the first song I learned was like Nirvana and a Metallica song because everybody in Poland loves Metallica.
Yeah, everybody in the whole world loves. They're playing here too next month.
They are? Metallica?
Yeah.
Let's go. I just met Lars, and he's actually fucking cool.
Mad cool. I'm friends with him too. Mad cool.
Okay, he's so awesome. So many people talk shit about him.
I know.
He's so cool. So I met him at Taylor Hawkinson's tribute show.
I was at that show too.
Okay, we should have hung out.
That was an amazing. That was an emo ass show. That was incredible.
Yeah,
man.
that backstage was hilarious. Like,
he did the Dave Grohl book too.
Yeah,
that's in my notes.
Yeah. So the first person I bumped into was Joan Jett, and she's just like rolling joints all night.
She was what?
Just rolling joints all night. And then the second person I
Gangster.
bumped into was like Tommy Lee, and I was like, this is the most interesting backstage I've ever been to. But I met Lars like the night before because I stopped by sound check, and Dave's a good friend of mine, so it was like me and Sebastian Bach and Dave. And my best friend Sam Velde. You know Sam Velde?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like my brother. He's the best. But Lars and I just started talking about communism in Poland and Metallica playing in Poland and just like his life as a drummer and the band, and he just knew so much cool shit, and he was so fucking cool and inquisitive, and we talked for like an hour, and I was like, whoever talks shit about Lars can go fuck themselves because this dude rules.
He's so nice.
I hope he listens to this podcast and puts this on the guest list for the Metallica show.
I just had his wife on the podcast too, Jessica.
Okay, sick. So we're getting in.
Yeah, I took him and his kids to the barracks to skate. It was nice.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah, I want to go to that show, and I'm talking to Rob right now about being on the podcast as well.
Amazing.
I'm put it out there. I don't want to jinx anything.
That's so cool.
Yeah, shout out to Sam too. Sam's incredible too. What an awesome human.
Sam is the best,
dude.
The fucking best. Yeah, I've known him for like 18 years.
I was going to ask you another question. Is do you spend a lot of time on social media? Because you do have 3 accounts.
No.
I was going to ask.
I have a house account for the Adobe I restored for 6 years. I post once a 4 months there.
So you're not checking DMs, you're not looking at any of that stuff, and you just
no, not if I don't need to. Then like my photo account is just to like let people know I exist, so people are like, oh yeah, hire Magda for this campaign.
Yeah.
And I also love sharing my work. And the cool thing is, sometimes you get to actually inspire people, and
100%.
People are just like, oh, this is a cool way to look at the world. And weirdly enough, I don't look at other people's work, and I never have. When people are like, who are your idols or what's your inspiration? I never had that in photography because I don't know if this is selfish or out of ego, but I never wanted to feel like I'm copying someone, or I never wanted to feel like I was looking at other people's work to influence my own. So I just close my eyes and I just do Magda, and whatever happens, that's what's happening.
I kind of like that. I don't listen to be honest, I don't listen to the podcast either. Sometimes I'll watch a couple on YouTube here and there, but I don't. I stay in my lane. I do my thing here in the kitchen, and I don't try to like see what other people are doing. I mean, I'm like totally like that.
And I love that too, because you're just kind of like, oh, you're just doing your thing. And so many times when I had an idea for a shoot or a film, people are like, oh, somebody's already doing a coming of age story being from Poland or blah, 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 blah. And you get like discouraged and you're like, yeah, fuck that. But that's not mine. And also it's not mine because I didn't get influenced by my story by looking at other people's work. So I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram because I'm not looking at other people's lives. Also, it's kind of poisonous and I don't fucking want to.
Yeah.
Like
You've been through a lot the last couple of years. I think social media.
I don't need to be looking at like who I lost a job to or who my ex-boyfriend's hanging out with. Like I just rather go and like look at the trees outside and watch the bees pollinate my roses. Like I don't need to put like self-inflicted harm. So I'll post and then I'll let it go.
I like that.
And then when I post a lot of photos, that's when I check my DMs to have conversations and like be engaging with my fan base, but I'm not really like looking. And then the Magdalena experience, like I only post once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah.
Do you have a bunch of photos already haven't posted yet?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I used to do the nude experience post like every day, and I was like, God, it's real hard to get naked in so many places all over the world and keep up with these fucking pictures. And I try to never repeat them, but sometimes I'll be like, what is my mood, you know?
Yeah.
And like, what do I want to talk about? And I actually think about it now, and I curate it. Is it like, you know, like I did the big thing about like suicide and having a hard time. And that was for New Year's because I wanted it to like bring into the new year like an idea of like a sense of self and a new beginning. Or for a birthday, it's kind of a recap. And then like for the fall, it's a recap. And for different times. So I always post based off of something that's happening in my life. I think about it.
Yeah.
Like I give a shit.
Yeah.
I curate it for sure now. And so it's cool.
How do you feel?
And it's less pressure when you curate it. It's not like I feel like I have to. It's like I want to, and this is what's going to go out in the world. If you like it, great. If you don't, whatever. And then I just don't really look.
How do you feel now this year? Like, how are you doing this year, like, compared to, feel like you're in a good place?
I'm in a really good place, but this year was like so many health issues back to back to back to back to back to back. And then like the idea of like dating that would, you know, just, it's still a shit show, but I'm all good because I've just gone through so much shit that I'm like, all right. I'm fine. Like
you've been through a lot.
Yeah, and I just have a good relationship with myself. And the thing is, most people I think would either feel like a victim if they're in my shoes or would feel hopeless. And I don't, because I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I feel safe. I have food in the fridge. I have a safe place to sleep.
Doing what you love.
I do what I love. I get to meet incredible people. I get to do stuff like this, like be on a podcast and talk about my life. Hopefully somebody gives a shit. You know what I mean?
No, people do.
But, you know, it's just so cool. Like, it's so fucking cool. So I'm in a really good place, but I'm still going through it every single day. And sometimes it's a challenge, but I'm aware of it now rather than being scared of it. And when you're aware of your shit, you can really, like, process it and get through it.
Yeah. Do you have any daily rituals you do?
I mean, the praying every morning, definitely. Like the kind of gratitude that I have. Like, I guess they call them mantras, but one thing I say to myself every morning now, like 3 times on repeat, is I choose to receive newness.
I like that.
Because I really want to experience things that I haven't experienced yet, meet people I haven't met yet, look at my career and work in a way that I've never looked at, approach creativity in a different way, approach my relationship with myself in a different way, approach communication with others in a different way. So I really am calling in newness, and I love that. It feels so good.
I think another things people might be intimidated by the way you're talking too, and I feel the same way too. Like when you're comfortable in your own skin and you're secure. I mean, we're all insecure in certain ways, but like you know who you are. You're grounded. You're learning how to like appreciate and take care and love yourself. And some people get threatened by that when you're so like good in your skin too, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know a lot, and I have a lot to learn, and I make mistakes all the time. Even, like, my therapist will yell at me sometimes, which I love her, because she'll be like, Magdalena, we have not done this much work for the last 2 years for you to fuck up and waste my time. And I'm like, damn. And she says it, and I'm just like, thank you. But she's right, because, like, I'll still make the same mistakes. And so I'm just a human, and I fuck up all the time.
We're not perfect.
And all I'm doing is just gathering the tools and learning how to use the tools. Because you can go to therapy all you want and you can be as woke and enlightened, but once you start living in the real world, you have to know how to apply those tools. The tools just sitting in your toolbox don't do shit.
Good point.
So now I'm applying those tools, and that's when the challenges are happening.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to face a lot of more challenges, but that's okay. Like, I just have a deeper understanding that this too shall pass. It all does.
I think you'll be a good mom someday.
Thanks. I hope I can be.
I can just feel it, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
you're a caring, giving, loving, compassionate person.
If I can have kids naturally in my 40s, then I'd be stoked. Right now, I'm just a good mom to 2 huge dogs. Red Dog and Akira, I love you.
Did you get nervous when you started going to therapy that you might like, because your mind blocks out things from when you were young, that you would start like,
totally.
Yeah, that's what I'm nervous about. But
you know, the cool thing is, though, I am so fucking willing for a change and willing to learn and so eager to learn that I'm just like, here is everything. Because I've just been making really bad decisions for so many years in my life.
With men?
with life.
Okay.
A lot of things just in general, and like self-worth and boundaries and standing up for myself and knowing like what I'm truly worth, even if it's like in career, what I can ask for, what I should demand for, because I'm such a fucking people pleaser, whether it's to clients or lovers or friends. And I'm at this point in my life where it's like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care if you don't like me. I always wanted to be liked. And it was such a thing my mom had too. And I always needed to people please. And therapy allowed me to get to this place of being like, you know what? I'm good enough with myself that I don't fucking care if you like me. That's your loss, not mine.
Same. I love that too.
And that's such an empowering feeling.
So freeing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like, again, relationships, family, friendships, career, you know? So, but with therapy too, I just was like, I'm going to get the most of this. If I'm paying someone to talk about my shit,
True.
I'm not going to like not divulge the things, because those people aren't there to judge you. A really good therapist will truly help you reprogram your like neurological pathways of how you talk to yourself. And my dialogue with myself has never been good until literally 2 weeks ago. I remember waking up.
2 weeks ago?
Well, I mean, I'm growing and changing all the time, but
are you harsh on yourself?
Oh my God.
Worst critic?
I'm so harsh on myself, and I'm like I have extremely high expectations of myself. So then I end up having extremely high expectations of my really close friends and my lovers, and that's not fair.
Yeah. I can relate on the friendship thing too. Like if you're such a giver and you're always giving and sharing and opening up to friends and having time for them, and then not that you want to receive the exact same thing back, but your expectations are at least going to be like how you I guess.
Even when you write someone back, because you have the common courtesy to write people back in a text, you think that they would respond in a timely manner, and people don't, and then you take it personally, but maybe they're busy and all this other shit, or maybe they just have shitty manners. But it's like I had to let go of so many things that were out of my control and accept so many things. And the reason why I say it's like I fucked up until even 2 weeks ago, I started having better language with myself, is because I remember like waking up. My house turned 111 years old this year, and I had a huge vampire party for my house.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Should have been there.
I'm sorry.
It was like 150 people just listening to Typo Negative. Like,
you like Typo Negative?
Of course.
So
like
good.
Blasting that, and like Prodigy and Ministry and 9 Inch Nails, and just like listening to like fucking awesome goth music with like a fog machine and red like light bulbs in every light bulb in my house and candles everywhere. And I had this huge upside down cross chandelier with candles hanging from my tree in the backyard. And if you didn't have fangs, then you couldn't come to my party.
I remember that.
But anyway, like 150 vampires came. We hung out and I danced till 6 a.m, and it was the first time I had fun in so long. And then I woke up the next morning and I was so mad at myself for like being hungover. And I don't really drink. I drink like once a month. But when I drink, I'm down to party, you know? And then I'll smoke a bunch of cigarettes and I'm like, ugh.
Oh, you do when you drink? Yeah.
Well,
that's part of the combo, right?
Yeah, but that's like once a month, right? I'm like, gross, this is not chic. I'm 39. I should not be smoking. And I definitely don't really want to be smoking ever again. But I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh, you're such a loser. Why did you drink? Why did you smoke? Blah, blah, blah. And then I caught myself and I was like, Magda, take a fucking load off. You've had the hardest 3 years of anyone you know.
Yeah.
If you wanted to party and rage till 6 a.m. and get hammered and be hungover and smoke cigarettes and dance to Typo Negative till the sun rose, fucking let it be. And I caught myself talking to myself in a really amazing way, being like, it's okay. You got this. Because I say that to my girlfriends when they're hard on themselves, or they feel bad, or they slept with the wrong guy, or they didn't get the promotion they wanted, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, babe, it's going to be fine. We got this. We got this. We got this. And I spoke to myself the way I would console a friend or a child.
Yeah.
You have to speak to yourself the way you would speak to the child that you love, because that's who we are inside.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I am applying those tools from therapy.
Yeah, she told me, she's like, your inner child is around your stomach, and then your adolescence is in your chest, and then your adult is in your head, or something like that. And you can talk to each other, right?
Sounds like you have a cool therapist.
Yeah, that's incredible, though. She told me that last week.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, when you start seeing it, you have these like aha moments, and you're like, oh yeah, life is so fascinating.
It like, is just connecting everything, right? Like just...
Totally. And when you can have these aha moments in life, you realize that you're capable of anything, mind over matter. Like I still want to be a shredding surfer, and I don't know how to surf because I just tore my MCL trying to surf. And I still want to be a race car driver, and I still want to do so many things.
Good goals, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck it, I'm almost 40, let's go.
Do you feel like you accomplished so much with photography? Obviously, you still love it, but is there other things you want to accomplish with it that you haven't yet?
I mean, the new chapter of my life that's so intimidating that I know nothing about, that I do feel very called to do, is make movies.
I can see that.
But it's just such a world that I'm like, holy shit, there are so many people that you need to know to even get your foot in the door for one meeting, for someone to even look at a treatment of a movie you want to make. But I do feel like my purpose on this earth in this lifetime as who I am is to tell stories and connect with people. So I have 3 films in my head that I already am thinking and trying to make and pitching one of them. So
the one with Sherry did, the skateboarding in Oakland, was beautiful.
Yeah.
Incredible. Sheer Strawberry. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. What an inspiration, you know?
Yeah.
And those are just like little snippets of like moments in life. And I'm just very intimidated about how to tell a huge story, a journey. But I kind of already do it in pictures.
Totally.
So now I got to apply it in like a movement, which it's almost harder to tell a whole story in one picture, because in a scene, you can hear the music, you can set the tone, you can see the movement. You know, like in a film, you almost smell the roses in the frame.
Yeah.
In a picture, it's hard to do that. And if I can capture that in a stills image, I'm really excited to apply that into filmmaking.
What about like a story or a book about your life?
I mean,
your journey is incredible.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff around that idea that I'm working on right now about some film stuff I want to make. I mean, I live in like that old 1911 hunting lodge, and it's called The Lodge, the Black Lodge from David Lynch's films. And yeah, nice. That's like my Wi-Fi password. And just writing a movie of living in that house for 15 years, the relationships I've gone through, the people that lived there, the junkies that lived in my guest room, the people that got pregnant there, the people that got deceived there, the fights, the walls that got punched out there, the deception, the cheating, the loving, the crying, the barfing, the drugs, the abuse, the happiness, the laughter, the community, the gathering, the records that we recorded on an 8-track from Rocket from the Crypt in my living room, to the band practices, to the, you know, emotional moments, to the, you know, dying mother, to the kids that were born. I mean, the house in itself in the 15 years I've lived there could be a movie. Like the Black Lodge could be a movie. And I always talked about it with my best friend Amelia, and she's like, you need to write a book about that house. I'm like, fuck it, let's make a movie about the house. But that's just one of them, because I'm definitely making a film about my mom.
That would be sick.
Yeah,
really sick. And the Dave Grohl book you did, the Storytellers one, right? Did you travel with them guys too?
Yeah, I met them 10 years ago and was able to photograph them throughout the years, and you know, just felt so honored to be able to just be made like an equal, like an artist, to have a purpose to be there. You know what I mean? And like over the years, Dave became a really good friend, and I was really stoked and honored that I shot a bunch of stuff for them for the New York Times 2 years ago. And after that photo shoot, like Pat Smear's like, you're my favorite photographer. Awesome. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because you shoot everything in 15 minutes and you still make us laugh. And I was like, thank you, Pat. But it was cool because like I'll have an idea, I'll run it past Dave, and I'm like, what do you guys want to do for the DG's cover? And he's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. You guys love drinking champagne and eating fried chicken after a show because of your amount of sweat you lost sweating on stage for 3 hours. And like, I've toured with them and I've seen them eat fried chicken and drink champagne on their plane. And I was like, this is insane because you're eating KFC on your plane.
It's KFC. Wow.
Yeah, KFC. And then he's like, that's a great idea. And I'm like, can you get us a plane? And then the next day, sure enough, he's got a private jet in like a parking lot.
Damn.
And then we dressed him in disco outfits and we shot him for their DG's cover. And then after the New York Times shoot, they used some of those photos for their current cover of the most recent record. And then just from that, I think they were so pumped on the photo shoots that's when Dave's people reached out to be like, hey, can you shoot his book cover? And cool. It was just really cool because it's like being able to, like, they have their artistry and I have my artistry, and then being friends and being able to connect to doing that. And since they know me, they trust me. And I love the fact that I get to do fun stuff with them rather than showing up with most bands. They're so image conscious and they're just like, I don't want to do this. And their publicist is like, nobody's going to do this. Da, 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 da. And with them, it's like, I'm very lucky because I have an in. I can just be like, hey, let's do this cool idea. And Dave's like, fuck yeah. And he'll think of cool ideas with me. And so we create awesomeness. It's not them just like on a white wall. That's like super boring. So we've shot some really cool photos together. And so when his book came out, we shot that at my house in the desert. And it was just like, 30 minutes. And there you go. Here's all the pictures. And the back cover, he was taking like a disco nap while I was prepping for the shoot, and I just shot a photo of him sleeping, and that's the back cover.
It's amazing. It's picture him and his daughter is beautiful too.
Oh yeah, Violet's incredible.
She's an amazing singer, man. Holy
crap.
God.
Oh my God. When she sang Hallelujah at the beginning of the tribute show, I was fucking sobbing. Then Joan Jett comes out crying, and then I'm sobbing, and then everybody comes out and plays, and I'm sobbing. And then when, you know, Taylor's son came,
play drums,
and then everybody's sobbing,
dude.
and then the drummer Russ that played with them is the son of the drummer from Queen, I believe.
Oh yeah, and they did the
and then he played with them, and then he started crying because him and Taylor were good friends. Damn. So for him to be sitting on that drum stool, you know, at one point he just started weeping and put his hands in his face, and like the camera zoomed in, and he's crying, and I was just like, holy shit, I've just been like drinking beer and crying for 7 hours with everybody. But
it was heavy, but it was beautiful, man.
So beautiful, yeah. And Violet's such a cool singer, and she's actually starting to shoot photos now too.
Oh, that's cool.
So I like told her which camera to get, and hopefully if I have a really cool job, I can bring her on. I would love to have her like come and check it out so she can like see behind the scenes what it's all about. Which would be cool to have her see it differently than see it through her dad's world.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? And like the cool thing about Dave is that they encourage, like him and his wife encourage their kids to like get a job and be like normal people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's awesome.
It's also, yeah. I get that with having a kid and being in the music world, nothing like his level, but yeah, you want your kids like try something different than that. You know what I mean? Like don't listen to this.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
And also it's because he came from like, you know, he grew up broke like all of us, you know, just from a fucked up world and
Virginia
and just like, you know, working his ass off playing Scream when he was
I saw Scream a million times when I was a kid. Photos of my photo album of him with long bleached hair.
Oh my God, show me those later so I can send them to him.
Incredible, man. And like my brother had a band in DC and he used to always play with Scream. So anytime I've ever met that dude, I saw that he was always super nice. Like he was my brother, yeah.
Yeah, and he's still like a punk at heart,
he
you
is,
know what I mean?
Yeah, he's connected. He knows. Like he hasn't forgotten his roots or where he came from. And when he did that show, he traveled and played with the Bad Brains in Woodstock. Yeah. Was that one Sounds? I forget what it was called. Traveling to each city and playing.
Oh, Sonic Highways.
So sick.
So sick. And then he like featured out of all the studios he could have featured in California. He featured Rancho de la Luna, Dave Catching's place in the desert, which is so cool because it's like Joe Walsh will just be there one afternoon, then you see Iggy Pop coming out one afternoon, then it's like Tanarwin, and you know, it's just so cool. But he's like a very down-to-earth, real person.
He seems like a humble person. Yeah,
humble person, loves life, and is just, him and I have so many similarities. That's probably why we're friends, because we're like little tornadoes. We go 100 miles an hour. And I was like, oh, finally someone that doesn't think I'm crazy because I'm hyper. Because everyone's like, you're so intense, Magda. I'm like, you're just lazy, and I think my intensity is called passion. And Dave's the same way. He's going 100 miles an hour. But one thing, like a really cool bond him and I both had, is that we're both like really connected to our mothers. And we really like had our mothers come into our world and into our careers and had that bond. And I've met his mom before, and he met my mom, and
oh, that's amazing.
It was really, really cool. It's so funny because one time me and him and my mom and like my friend Skylar and my friend Amory, who works in my office with me, Skylar was building the sauna in my backyard. Amory was working in my office, and Dave came by to say hi to my mom, and the 5 of us are having lunch in my backyard. And then he's wearing ripped up jeans, and my mom goes, David, I thought you were a millionaire. Why do you have holes in your pants? And he goes, well, it's just the style. And she goes, I'll give you $20 and you go buy yourself some new jeans. And he goes, okay. And she starts laughing, and he just puts his hand out, and he's like, give me $20. So he made her give her.
She did?
Yeah, and she gave him $20, and she's like, but you're a millionaire. And he's like, yeah, but you said you'd give me $20. So he took it. And I thought it was just so funny because like him and my mom had such funny banter. Like they have the same dry sense of humor. You know what I mean? It's
amazing. Do you know Jim Rhoda too then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Jim for many years. Yeah, it's amazing. Totally. Jersey days.
Totally, yeah.
Do you consider yourself an optimist or pessimist?
Optimist for sure, but I'm definitely pessimistic sometimes because I'll definitely bitch about some shit, and like God bless my close friends where I'm just like blah 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 until I need to get it out. But lately, I mean, doing the work and doing therapy, I could definitely be bitching a lot about what I'm going through, and I'm just like, you know what, that sucks, or that fucking guy ghosted me, or this happened, or that. But I'm like, it's okay, and I'm not pessimistic about it anymore because I'm like, life's fucking great.
Yeah.
Keep on. I'm just, you know what I'm excited about? The unknown. So many people are afraid of like not knowing
Of the future and stuff. Yeah.
and all the unknown. And I'm like, I fucking love it. I'm
Embrace
in awe.
it.
I'm in awe and wonder of surprise. Like we as adults don't have the idea of awe or wonder anymore. And the only thing we can really look at that as is the future, the unknown. Like for all I know, I could be living in Portugal next year with like 3 kids and 2 huge movies coming out. Or I could just be hanging out in Highland Park doing the same fucking thing I'm doing right now. But that's okay. They're both great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true. You seem positive though.
Yeah. You gotta be. You gotta be. Like, I mean, if I wasn't, I don't even know if I'd be here right now. You know, it really comes down to that.
Yeah. What was the last real job you had that wasn't photography? Something, just a regular job. Do you remember?
Yeah, I was a waitress at a nightclub. It fucking sucked.
What was the place called?
It was called Jets. It was in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was like 19 and I'd go there working the night shift after skating the skate park. And I had to wear mini skirts and heels and I just had bruises all over my legs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And all these creepy dudes would just like walk by you and like slap your ass and be like, hey, honey, get me another beer. And then they tip you more if you like, you know, came around more often. And it was just so degrading, but I thought that that's like normal to be treated like that. But also I was like, I'm a fucking dude. I'm a skater. You can't fuck with me. You know what I mean? But I was like wearing a mini skirt with like heels on. But I worked there because I could make enough money to like save up to move to California. I mean, the sacrifices that I had to make to get enough money to move to LA when I was 20 were exactly those things because nothing else was going to pay me enough to get me the fuck out in time.
And to buy your first camera too. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I've worked since I was 12. Always. I'm always working.
Yeah. I was going to say you worked hard your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, so did my parents. I mean, when my parents lived in Poland, when I was in my early childhood days in the 80s, my parents were together combined. I think we're making $20 a month.
$20 a month?
Yeah. American dollars. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and like we had food on the table and a cool house, but that was like, you know, that's the difference between the Polish currency and the American currency and working for the government, being teachers and communism.
Yeah.
So it's like a trade system, you know, like we ate meat because my mom would tutor the butcher's son in French and therefore they would give us meat. Otherwise, you couldn't get it from the store. You know, like we had to go to foreign countries to buy clothes because there was nothing in the stores. And I remember the like next time I ever felt that scarcity was going to Cuba, and you walk into the grocery store and there's like 16 aisles with only soy sauce, nothing else, and you're like, cool, communism.
Wow. When did you go to Cuba?
I went 2018. It was cool. Have you been?
No, I heard. I mean, my
amazing.
friends who went there heard it's amazing.
So much soul. People love to dance. Like just so much passion. There's just everybody kind of oozes sex. It's just like this fucking incredible, amazing culture, but the food's terrible. Cuban food in America is Americanized and it's very sweetened, I think, so it's better. But Cuban food's very bland because they don't have a lot of stuff to get to make it fantastic.
I've never had Cuban food before.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Because I've never ate meat for a long time. That's interesting. What about sobriety? So you drink maybe once a month?
I mean, I used to party so hard and just, I mean,
like, what was your hardest partying? Like, what kind of stuff? Were you doing drugs?
I mean, from like 22, from the day I tried cocaine to 30 and I was playing in a metal band, I was just like, I was doing so much blow. Like 8 balls.
Damn, for how many years you did cocaine? Because that shit's...
Like 8.
Damn.
Like getting 8 balls at like noon and staying up for 3 days. And sometimes doing speed by accident because I didn't know. But that was like the vibe, you know? It was like metal. And it was just like...
It's a metal vibe.
And some people in my band were alcoholics and, you know, verbally abusive. And then other people were meth addicts. And I didn't even know until years later. Like there were so many people doing drugs and I just was like, I guess this is what we do. And then I get so fucking wasted I have to stay up all night. But also on tour towards the end of like the Green and Wood days, like our last tour in Europe, I remember being in like Denmark and just going out to the van and we had no place to sleep. At that point we were sleeping in like squat houses during like Occupy Holland and shit like that, Occupy Amsterdam. Damn. And just like, you know, rats crawling over my sleeping bag and stuff like that. And these guys were always hooking up with girls, and since I was the only girl, nobody would talk to me because they always thought I was with somebody in the band. And my ex-boyfriend of 10 years was the singer of the band, but we were still touring when we broke up.
Oh, wow.
So then he's off like hanging out with chicks. All the other guys were like screwing girls, and then nobody would talk to me. I was just like, cool. So I just roll solo, and I just remember having to just drink myself to sleep because it was so cold, and I'd be sleeping in the van. Jesus. And I would sleep between like the 2 front rows of like the driver's seat, the passenger seat, and the bench because all the other dudes claimed the bench seats. And I was like the young one. I was like 5 to 8 years younger than everybody else. And even though I was the manager, taking care of the merch, booking the shows, booking everything, making the shirts, taking care of the money, and feeding everybody and paying for people's flights, I was, I was everyone's mom, but I was way younger than them. And I was sleeping on the floor, and I would just have to drink so much just to like stay warm through the night, like on tour, because we were just like in a fucked up situation. Yeah, I mean, I've roughed it. So
glamorous being a band is.
I mean, exactly. And before that, I was going on skate tours, watching people just do crazy ass shit, getting hookers back to their hotel rooms and cheating on their wives and all this stuff. So, and then you go in music and you see the same thing. So like
same shit.
My idea of like how women should be treated was like not a very good example, but I was like, well, that won't happen to me because I'm a man. I'm just like them. But then I'm like, well, I'm not a man. I'm a woman and I'm straight and I date guys. But it was like, it really took me a long time to reprogram my way of thinking how a woman is okay and should be treated and not dragged through the dirt,
Fuck.
So, but yeah, it's not glorious. That 45 minutes of getting a high on stage wasn't, towards the end, wasn't worth the way that I was feeling as the only girl. If I was a dude fucking everybody on tour, that would have been fun, but I wasn't. I was just sleeping by myself in a van drinking whiskey.
Yeah, those other 23 hours just leading up to playing the show is just...
And then you kind of got to pace yourself with drinking. So I drank a lot in my 20s, and I just was running away from my problems and running away from an abusive relationship and running away from not liking myself. And then I went sober for 3 years.
Was it hard to quit cocaine?
No, not at all. And then I was just like, I don't ever need to do it again. And I think I did it like 3 times in 10 years, and I just don't care. Like, I just don't need it. I have so much energy.
Yeah, you do have a lot of energy.
Yeah, and I was just like, whatever. And then I started drinking. Like, I didn't drink for 3 years, and then I started drinking again a little bit here and there. And then I was engaged to a guy that was sober for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't really... So I, out of respect for him, didn't smoke or drink. But then I was like, but you're the alcoholic. I don't have a problem. So I can still enjoy a glass of wine every once in a while. So I'm back to being okay at drinking every once in a while.
Yeah, was he worried about you drinking in front of him?
No. But I wish he went to AA because I think he never worked out his resentments. I feel like some people just get sober, and some people can pull it off, but some people like truly need the program because there's so much shit to talk about and work through, and he didn't get a chance to do that. So I think there was like a lot of buildup and resentments that were never talked about by the time we split. And I was just like, I don't know if I end up ever dating someone that's sober in the future, I would hope that they either go to therapy or went to AA. But I, for a fact, will not date a fucking guy that's a project ever again, or a guy that hasn't started doing the work. Like, if you don't go to therapy, I'm kind of like not even interested.
It's not really your job to do the work.
Fuck no, and that's been my job the last.
Or babysit, or take care. You know what I mean?
I want to be taken care of. I take care of everybody.
I feel like you deserve to be taken care of. I know you don't want that because I know you're a very independent woman. Okay,
I want that. I want that so bad. It'd be so nice for someone else to make decisions for me.
But as everything you've been through, and you're hearing your story and your relationships and everything, and the way women have been treated, and just being a girl trying to be a photographer and skateboarding, just everything. I think you deserve a nice fucking man who you can chill. He comes home, he has dinner for you, massage your feet. Come on, man! Like, you deserve something like that.
You know what?
Would you accept that? Because you seem like you're very in control of your life and everything.
I would accept that, and the thing is, it'd be nice if they had their own shit going on. Like a guy that also has a job and a career and a passion. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be cool if we were just equals. If we showed up for each other equally, that'd be awesome. I would love, love, love that, because if it's just me doing all the work and the other person's only living for me, like, I don't want them to also get the idea of all their
resentment, all that
life
stuff.
Purpose for me. Yeah. But I am 100%. One thing I know for sure is that I will never date anyone that hasn't done the work or hasn't started doing the work, like therapy.
Well, you guys listening out there, pay attention to this. There's a real reality of relationships and dating and what a woman expects, or just something, I don't know.
Especially if you're at the point of my age at 39, you've definitely had some fucked up shit already happen in your life. And if you haven't started working on it, that's you're not willing to grow. And another thing is, I don't trust a guy that has not had his heart broken by the time they're 39. If you haven't had your heart broken, I'm not going to date that person either. That's pretty, judgmental, but it's just if you don't know.
Your standards.
Yeah, if you don't know loss or pain, it's not like I need a trauma bond with people. I just need to know that they have a certain understanding of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Which is your heart.
You sacrifice a lot too.
Fuck yeah.
throughout your whole life.
Sacrificed and compromised, but also fought like I'm a fighter. And I'm also exhausted. I don't want to fight anymore. And that's why people are like, oh, you wouldn't have the ability to let people take care of you. And I'm like, I would, but it takes a little bit of a moment to trust people so I can become malleable, so I can know that I can rest in your hands.
Yeah.
And once you show me that I can trust you, then I am so down to be taken care of, you know, and just be able to be feminine and receive. That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
But I just need that opportunity to have that
with
someone I can trust.
And I think you will get it.
I hope so too. Yeah.
It's just going to happen. Not have to look for it. It's going to happen.
Exactly. That's why I'm like literally off the dating apps. As of like last week, I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
Everybody's going to be Googling your name after this episode.
Yeah, right. They're like, this chick is crazy. No.
Well, thank you for being here.
Oh my God. Thanks for having me.
This has been awesome. I learned so much about you and it's been very therapeutic as well.
I know. We talked about so many things.
I'm going to double check my list of all my stuff. Yeah, because people can Google you and they can look at all the things you've done, but I like just talking about your life and, you know, it's nice.
Yeah, because, you know,
personal with you.
The funny thing is people see like my Instagram, they just think I'm some rich kid that gallivants the globe naked and they think I don't have hardships. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, I'm sitting in hotel rooms by myself crying, feeling lonely.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. And you have this perfect, wonderful life, but nobody's life's perfect and wonderful.
No, people are like, you have this cool house you did and you have this cool like muscle car and these cool dogs. And I'm like, dude, don't fucking like me for the things I have to offer. Like me once you get to know me.
But you worked for those things. You busted your ass for those things.
Totally.
They weren't given to you.
You know, it'd be cool when it comes back to relationships. It'd be cool to meet someone that doesn't know who the fuck you are, what car you drive, who you are in the world of photography, who your friends are, what you do, that they'd literally just like you because of the stuff that comes out of your mouth.
That's impossible with social media, though.
Exactly.
And it's like you can't dead those accounts because that's how you promote the stuff you do.
I know. It's
so tricky with that stuff, you know, because this is amazing just having a conversation in real life, which doesn't really happen anymore with people. And you're online, this phone, which we had shut off for like 2 hours. I don't feel like I missed anything in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Me neither.
But then when you have it on, it's like you're looking at that shit. It's like...
fuck that shit, though. This is so real. Cool. Like, we need to do things like this, face-to-face hangs more often.
Yeah.
Dinner parties at least once a month.
I love that. As soon as I met you, I knew there's a connection there, too, in the vibe. And then you were on that photo shoot, and then you know similar people, and you're the same stuff. And then my wife loved you, and she loves Poland and fucking...
If I can speak Polish to anybody, I'm so excited. Maybe when my dad's in town, you guys should come over for Polish dinner.
That'd be kind of sick.
We'll make it vegan style.
That'd be amazing. Okay. I never had Polish vegan food either. Missed out on a lot of things in my life.
Is your wife...
fucking animals. Hope these animals appreciate me.
Is your wife vegan?
Yeah.
Okay. You know
and
what?
My son, yeah.
Poland is the third biggest vegan. Warsaw's the third biggest vegan city in the world. Number 1 is Berlin. Number 2 is LA. Number 3 is Warsaw.
I believe it. And Berlin's fucking on point too,
yeah.
Man.
So when you go there and you play shows there, you're going to get to eat vegan Polish food and it's going to blow your fucking mind.
You know what's so crazy? My friend Derek, he's on tour. He's in a band called Sepultura. I love you, Derek. He's usually my co-host.
I love Sepultura.
Yes, he's a singer. He told me the other day, he's like, bro, I had the most amazing fucking food at our show in Poland the other night. I was like, Poland? Yeah. I was like, holy shit, you just said it too.
Wait, how long has he been in the band?
Over 20 years.
Okay, so...
He replaced the original singer.
I played a show in Rio, in Brazil.
Damn.
And somebody's like, oh, the singer of Sepultura is here. And he came and saw my band, Green and Wood. We were playing a Vice party, and then we went to some like strip club with him afterwards.
What year was this? This had to be within 20 years.
It was 15 years ago.
Holy shit, Derek, that's you, man.
Derek, I met you.
You're going to meet him when he gets back to town. He's on tour right now. But yeah, he told me that Poland, and we're going there in March, and my wife's coming to sell T-shirts, so she's coming back out of retirement. She'll be on our first tour in March.
Amazing.
So she'll be in Poland with us. We got 2 shows out there.
Fuck yeah, I'm going to tell my friends to go.
So people can find you on your website, just yourname.com.
And if you want to see like new photo work, go to Magda Wosinska Studio. That's the Wosinska. Yeah, that's the Instagram to go.
Oh yeah, there's studio, there's experience, and there's just your name.
And then there's the Desert Milk Adobe.
Fuck, and then there's your website. It's a lot, man. It's crazy.
Trying to stay relevant.
No, you're killing it, and if you look her up, everybody, and you see all the different people she's taking photos of. It's just the diversity, all the different things she's worked on. It's crazy, man. Short films, advertising, commercials, music videos, sports, fashion, lifestyle, street, everything, man. Her website's awesome. I deep dived it the other day, and yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye. I always ask my guests if they have any regrets. I personally don't have any regrets. Even when it comes to my tattoos, I have the silliest tattoos. Even my ET on my leg, it's still a childhood memory for me, and I love it. I've had tattoos on top of tattoos strictly because I wanted more tattoos. I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swipe the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details or anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life, One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to Removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations. U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology. Cryotechnology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to Removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out. Yo, people always ask me what kind of frames I'm rocking. I've been rocking Caddis for a couple years. They make amazing progressive readers, which I wear. Also, they make sunglass readers, anti-glare, anti-smudge coating, anti-scratch, and anti-aging. That's why I look mad young when I wear them. I'm just kidding. But they make amazing frames. Caddis, so stoked to have you guys part of the podcast. You can go to caddislife.com/Toby10 and get $10 off your first purchase. Stoked. Thank you, Caddis. Welcome to the fam.